Manatic. My name's Mark. And I'm a little OCD. You can't just set a can out in the middle of the walkway and expect me to be okay with it. No. It's really a privilege for me to introduce Amanda. We live in neighboring regions, and we're really close in clean time together, but I didn't meet Amanda till a couple of years ago. And I met her through the gift of service in Narcotics Anonymous. And what I've found is a woman that's strongly grounded in her values, not yours or mine, in hers, and her morals and her principles. And we started dating, and I thought I had found Miss Right. I didn't know she was going to be Miss Always Right. And I know she thought she had found Mr. Right, but realized it was Mr. Never Right. So, what I know about Amanda and what I've learned in the last couple of years is, that line in the basic text that's, I'll screw it up, lost dreams awaken and new possibilities arise. And Amanda is very active in our service structure. She's politically active in her community. She's she's a third-year grad student, just finished her second year, and has this incredibly amazing full life that is attractive from every angle that I look at it. And it's with all of that stuff going on, she's still actively working with the sponsor, working steps, attends 3 or 4 meetings a week, and still manages to keep all of that balanced for the most part in some state of, she don't sleep very often, but she's not mean and crabby about it either. It's really a privilege to introduce you to my best friend, Amanda Murphy.
Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm an addict. Sometimes I am mean and crabby. And I'm not always right. I'm really, really grateful to be here. And thank you, Derek, and the committee for inviting me to share and speak to you guys tonight and share this weekend with you. It's really lovely here, and this has come at about the perfect time for me. As Mark said, I'm in grad school, and I just finished my second year, and it was like the roughest semester I've had, since I've been in school, and I didn't sleep a whole lot, and my life did become unbalanced in certain aspects, and it's really nice to be able to come here and have no responsibility other than to stand up and do an hour of service here tonight and be able to relax and listen to you guys and enjoy and learn and chill. And so I'm having a really good time doing that. I missed breakfast this morning because I was sleeping. I was sleeping, so thank you for giving me a weekend of sleep. I'm an addict through and through, And I've known I'm some sort of an addict for a while, probably since early teenage years, and certainly when I started when I was using drugs when I was 13. I quickly found out that I didn't want to stop. I didn't like to say no. And it helped me deal with me and my feelings of hatred towards myself. And so for a while, drugs were a solution. But I also tried to stay away from certain ones because I knew I had this addictive personality, right? I didn't know what really being an addict meant until I got into recovery in Narcotics Anonymous. I had really no clue. But I knew that once I started, I didn't like to stop. And I thought about stuff until I did it, and then I wanted to keep doing it. And so it seemed like I had an addictive personality. So I behaved accordingly and tried to control my usage accordingly. What I used, how I used, how often I used. And I think any of y'all that are sitting in here tonight know how well control works in our lives. And so I don't really want to talk to you guys about my using a whole lot tonight. We're all experts at that. I'm not going to teach you anything new. And I don't really want to teach you anything new about using dope. I've forgotten a lot of those things, and I don't really need to remember how to do dope. I need to remember that I'm an addict. I can't ever forget that. If I forget that, I'm going to learn how to do dope again real quick. But I am an addict, and without going into detail, the way I used was basically through a method of substitution. I like to try to control my usage. And I started using as a teenager, and generally I did really well in school, and I kind of kept my shit together as far as that goes. And so I didn't really want my using to get too far out of control. And at some point it did. I was not able to be in school anymore. I graduated high school. I did several years of college and dropped out of undergraduate 3 different times while I was using, because using got too much, and school got too much. It was in the way of my using. I wasn't really ready to quit the using yet, so I quit the school. And in that time, what would happen is I would decide that a certain drug or combination of drugs that I was doing at the time was causing my life to be out of control, and I couldn't handle those drugs. So I would quit those drugs and start some other drugs. I didn't have a clue what being an addict was about. And so that was my way to control, so I could cure my alcohol problem real easy with heroin, and I can cure my heroin problem real easy with alcohol again, And I could go back and forth, try different drugs all over again, because, I can do it different this time, right? I'll handle it differently this time. And I handled it worse. It didn't get any better when I went back to it the next time. It kept getting worse. And so that was my pattern of using for a long time. I got clean when I was 23. The first time I encountered a detox, well, not a detox, I didn't go to detox, a treatment facility, was when I was 16, and I didn't go to that either. I talked my way out of that. And I went to an AA meeting when I was 18, and not because I wanted to quit using or had any desire to quit using, but I had moved to, I grew up in Iowa, I grew up in Des Moines. I moved out to California and went to college there for several years, and one of my good friends there, I lived up in Santa Cruz, and she had grown up in LA, and so we went down to LA, and she said, I want to take you to this young people's meeting. I was 18, you know, and so we went, and I didn't really have any desire to be there or quit, but I thought, sure, I'll go check this out, you know. Maybe I'll see some famous people. I don't know, you know. And so that was like my first experience with a 12-step meeting. And when I was 21, I did go to treatment, and I went to, I think, 6 treatments before I got clean. But when I was 21, I went, and still in California. And in that treatment facility, I got a basic text. I don't know if they gave it to me, if H&I came in and gave it to me, if I bought it, I don't know. Somehow I ended up with it. That time's pretty fuzzy. And I remember H&I coming into that treatment facility and giving us a meeting, right? Go H&I. And so we're reading the 12 steps, and I'm just like, this is a bunch of bullshit. You know, and I'm like, that won't work. Nope, that's messed up. Mm-mm. And I didn't even have like a portion of my one ear open, or any ounce of willingness or open-mindedness. I always loved to think of myself as a really open-minded person, really accepting everybody, anything. I'm really judgmental and closed-minded sometimes, you know, and that's just the reality of it. But I wasn't, you know, I didn't really see it in that way in terms of myself and my own learning, my own ability to change and grow as a person, or really take any responsibility that I could do anything different. And so I went to a couple meetings after I got out, and then I relapsed and continued to use. I ended up back in Iowa, and I used another couple years in Iowa. And the summer, I got clean October 5th, 1998, so I have 14 years clean. And the summer before I got clean, I tried to kill myself, and I didn't succeed. And I went into the psych ward yet again. That was kind of where I ended up. I didn't go to jail or prison. I spent a night in jail. But I ended up in the psych ward quite a bit. And so I was back in the psych ward, and I'd been there many times, and this time they said, you're gonna get electric shock treatment. And I said, okay, anything. I'm fucking dying. And so I did that for like a month. And, that was great because they gave me anesthesia every time, and I got to get high for like 10 seconds. and I wasn't going to die. There was people hanging out there right there, bring me back, whatever. So like, and I don't, I was asleep during that whole time, so I don't know really what they did. But I hung out there, and I got out, and I had started going to some meetings over that summer. And I heard somebody talking earlier that, that you come in late and leave early, not get to know anybody, not get any hugs, do that kind of thing. So I did that over the summer, and that got me to the place where I was willing to try to kill myself. And for a long time, I really believed that that I'm an addict, and addicts use, and I will always use. And so I just need to go on as best I can and make the best of it. But there's no point in like trying to not use. I just got to manage it as best I can. And that was my attitude, my belief, my mindset for a really long time. And what that did for me is that enabled me to continue to use without any sense of responsibility to change my life. And so I'd go late, I'd leave early. I didn't get to know very many people. And I continued to relapse, try to die some more, get shocked, get out, and I use. And so I get out, and I'm, at this point, it's like, obviously my life is a train wreck, right? I can't work, I can't go to school, and I'm having these shitty consequences. And I still really don't believe that I can get clean. But I go back to meetings, and I go and I sit there, and I can hardly sit because I can't stand myself. So it's really hard to sit still, sit through a whole meeting. But I do, and as I'm going like that summer and that fall, I go and I listen a little bit. I got some phone numbers, and I go and I use. And my using was like, I'd use for like a week, and then it'd be over. Shitty things would happen, and I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. You know, I was at that place, I was at the end of the road, when at the end of the road, you know, and we can't live with or without drugs. And so I try to go use, and it was like, that's not working. I try to get clean, that's not working. What am I doing? And I didn't know what to do. But as I'm going through these, you know, few months before I did get clean, and I was trying to clean up, and I had somewhat of a desire, I ended up going early, staying late, going out to coffee with people, going out to lunch, going out after, you know, after the meetings, dinner, whatever, and hanging out with some people. And when I come into meetings, you know, I mean, we're kind of a varied bunch, and some of us have smiles on our faces, and some of us don't. And you know how we do the thing that, like, we laugh when we identify? You know, and it's like, I've done that stupid thing, or I felt that stupid thing, or it's this really, you know, horrible, serious thing that somebody's talking about, and like we're laughing because it's like we've worked through that, and we're to the other side, and we can see like, oh my gosh, there is another side, and that's ridiculous, and like I know I can get through that, and I did, and so I have a sense of humor today, and I can laugh about myself. But I didn't really know that you guys were laughing about yourselves, you know, and I didn't really necessarily feel you were laughing at me, but you just were laughing and smiling and like had some sense of peace and serenity. And of course there's chaos and drama and whatever in our fellowships too, you know, but it's like there was this, you know, the sense that, like, I'm not like you guys, you know. Remember, I'm depressed, I'm full of despair. At this point, like, nobody really wants to use with me. I don't really want to use with anybody, so I'm pretty lonely. And, you know, I just kind of had this sad existence, and I still hated myself. I still didn't know what to do, but now I can't even use successfully. I can't stay clean, you know, I'm just like, and so I have got like one foot dancing in and one foot dancing out. Well, I'm not even dancing. I'm like laying there. There was no dancing going on. And so you know, but like the thing that happened was with staying late, going out for coffee, I learned a little bit about you guys. And I realized that you weren't always like this. You didn't always have smiles on your face. You didn't always have a sense of peace about you. Something in your life had changed. At one point, you were a desperate, dying addict like myself. And once I found that out, it was really hard to keep the bullshit excuse alive that because I'm an addict and I'm always going to use and I can't stop and I might as well not try and there's no way I can stay clean. How do I tell myself that when you guys are the exact same people that I am? Well, not really, but you're an addict and you're staying clean. I can't tell myself that. I'm just lazy at that point, or unwilling, I can get clean and I can stay clean. And one of my favorite parts, and it works how and why, I don't have any literature on me except I have my phone. But, so I'm gonna paraphrase some shit, because, yeah. But I think it's on page 11 of It Works How and Why, and it talks about that, like at the point where we finally believe that we too can stay clean. And so at some point I continued to relapse and I got clean, relapsed, whatever, and I went to treatment again. But by this point I had gotten a sponsor. I was not really using her, wasn't working a step or anything like that. I wasn't quite ready for that stuff. But I was to the place where I had made some friends and people that I could call. And so while I was in treatment, I called and I got passes and I'd go out to meetings. And they'd pick me up for a meeting at night and take me and bring me back. And that was a really awesome way for me to stay connected to the fellowship and our program while I was in treatment. Because treatment's great and all, but it ends. And so, and at this point I had realized that was not, treatment's not going to keep me clean. I've been to several and continue to use, and it ends. It's not going to be anything sustaining that has, indefinite. And NA is indefinite if we stick around. And so I'd have people come and pick me up and drop me off. And one day I was talking to my counselor, and I said, I still have some paraphernalia at my house. There's probably some drugs, at least remnants, And I'm going to go back to that apartment when I get out. I wasn't moving to a new place. I was still in the same town, same apartment. So what she had me do was get a few recovering addicts, and so after the meeting, we went to my apartment. Some people that were at the meeting. We went to my apartment. I said, this is where my shit is. And they got rid of it for me. And for me, that was this really amazing point where that reservation got thrown out the window, got thrown in the dumpster, flushed down the toilet, smashed into pieces, gone. And I made that decision that if I needed to get loaded, I could go find some more paraphernalia and I could go find some more dope. But as long as I'm an addict in recovery, I don't need that. I don't need the pretty pipe I got in Mexico. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, that shit's great, but I can't have that around, I don't care how beautiful your paraphernalia is. I cannot, Great, it's a souvenir of what? My death, really? I need to keep that shit around because I'm just going to use it at some point if it's there. So, I had never done that before. And the thing I love about recovery is that I continue to do things I've never done before. You know, I've never had 14 years and whatever months and days and hours I have clean before. Every day is new territory for me. And I still learn and I still grow, and I won't be done doing that, and I won't be recovered until my heart stops beating. But until then, as long as I stay in recovery, my heart continues to beat with Narcotics Anonymous, and I'm so grateful, you know, that you guys have taught me about addiction to where I understand that, like, I need NA, and I need you guys in order to stay clean and to stay alive. You know, my heart will stop beating. I'd rather it stop beating when I'm still clean, though, you know, and so I haven't left. And so that was one of these really great things that, okay, if I'm gonna use, I can go get some more shit. It's not hard to get, you know, it's not hard to get dope at all. It's not hard to get shit to do it with either, so you make it, whatever. So I made that decision and took that action. Some other people took the action, but I asked. And I got out of treatment, and I went to probably 180 meetings in 90 days. Remember, I wasn't in school, I didn't have a job. I had 24 hours to fill, you know, every day. And so if I could go to more than one meeting a day, I did. And I tried to hang out with people in recovery as much of the day as I could. And surprisingly, somehow you didn't get sick of me. Which I gotta tell ya, I was lonely, remember? You know, and so like to have people that wanted to hang around me, or at least pretended that you did, because I'm new and crazy, and so here come, we'll drag you along, and you know, you'll get better. So, you know, so people put up with me, or loved me, or you know, embraced me, whatever they did. And so the love that I felt is probably a really big reason why I have stayed. And I don't think without that, I would have stayed. And that's not something that I really want to forget. Because we have new people come into NA all the time, you know, and when somebody walks into a meeting, we have a choice of like, well, I can be all insecure and I don't know new people, and so I can feel awkward and just sit there and not say anything. Or I can, as an NA member that's been around, I can feel awkward and not know what to say, but I can still go up to the person that feels 100 times more awkward than me, walk into their first meeting, and say, "Hi, my name's Amanda," and give them a hug. And I can show them love, you know, and say, "Hey, come out to coffee with us." Because if we ignore each other, we're not going to stick around, you know. Unity, that's our thing, right? So I stuck around. I started working steps, so steps that I thought were bullshit. And I had about 60 days clean, I think, when I had this just like, I guess it was an awakening, but I really embraced that in the It Works How and Why, and I don't think I'd probably ever read it at that point, but the place where I was like, I have 60 days clean. Who does that? Not me by myself. But I did, you know, like here I am, I'm 60 days clean, and what's preventing me from having 61, 62, 63 days clean? You know, like maybe I can stay clean. And I don't know what changed or what, you know, what the difference was, but kind of at that point, I was like, I can do this. At least for today, I can do this. You know, in those first 60 days, sometimes it was 5 minutes, a minute, an hour. I wasn't even going to stay clean for a day necessarily. But I did. And so at that point, I really was like, okay, I can do this for today. And I didn't have all that doubt of like, because I'm an addict, I'm always going to use. I really couldn't tell myself that because I would have been using long before 60 days had that been the case. So at that point, it's kind of like, well, it's willingness, you know. What am I willing to do to stay clean? What am I willing to do for my recovery? And I had also come to this place where I was really tired, you know, and I was really tired, and I figured out that my way of doing things was not right. And I had tried many different things, but none of the ways I had tried helped me stay clean. And so maybe I should listen to a recovering addict who stayed clean and find out what they've done. I had read our basic text while I was in treatment, and that blew my mind away. Any of you guys that had less than 30 days that got one of those cards, don't forget to get your book and give yourself a break and read it. Because it changed my life, really, to read that book. I still wasn't convinced I could stay clean, but I was like, holy shit, they're writing about me. I guess I'm not alone. So I worked steps, and I went to meetings, and I had a sponsor. I had several sponsors. My first year clean. You know how that goes. Some of you might know how that goes. I was a little drama and chaotic, and you know. So I didn't always follow direction. I didn't stay out of a relationship for a year. I had several. And the first couple were with people with time. So I have really mixed feelings about some 13-stepping. Because here I am today, I'm clean, right? But it's pretty unhealthy, you know, when it happens. I had no clue how to love anybody. And I thought it was really cool that somebody with time liked me, right? I could be cool because I was with somebody with time. So, and I don't know what was going on for them because I'm not them. And I've never dated somebody with no time when I had time. So I don't know what goes on for that person. But I do know for me, it helped fill up my day. It helped fill up my mind with other obsessive thoughts relating to people instead of dope. But, you know, when those things ended, what do? You know? That's the shitty stuff that hurts a lot. So, I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I sponsor women and I say this is what we suggest, but I didn't do it, so I can't really tell you to. I just know if you're gonna get in a relationship at any point in your recovery, you gotta do twice the work. still have to work on yourself, and then you have to work on a relationship too. You don't have to work on that other person. That'll get you both loaded, you know? But you have to work on that relationship, that partnership, that unity, you know? And if you don't do twice the work, something's gonna suffer. And I've been in those places too. And so, you know, if you want to do twice the work, sure, go ahead. Get in a relationship before you work steps or have a year or whatever you want to do, you know. And I did it, and I didn't get loaded, and I'm really grateful I didn't get loaded, but I cannot say that seems like that's the usual thing that happens. And the other thing that I have seen is a lot of times it's the person with time that goes out and gets loaded. The two people that I did date that had time when I had no time are still clean today. That I don't think is usual either. But they are, and I'm grateful for that too. But that, you know, that's the thing. And the thing about coming in and being clean, it's like, for me, relationships are the thing, and I'm not just talking about a romantic relationship. I'm talking about like with my family, my friends, my old friends, which remember I didn't have a whole lot like around me then. So that part in and of itself, changing my playgrounds, playmates, and playthings was not super difficult in my situation. But I had old friends and still negotiating that, you know, and then new friends in NA. How do I deal with that? So, and my family, you know, some of my family uses, some of them don't. Some of them I'm close to, some of them I'm not. So and people that I don't like, that I have some sort of relationship with. I go to work. I do service. And I participate in my life, in school, and in my, you know, in my community. And so sometimes I don't really like everybody, but I still have some sort of relationship with them. And I still need to negotiate and navigate how to be a decent person. And these days I do it with more dignity and grace than I've ever done before, but I still fail and fall on my face and am an asshole sometimes. And that's, you know, I still need to come here for the rest of my life because I'm never going to be 100% better. So, that was kind of how I got clean and figured out that I could stay clean. And so the stuff that I did that I had never done before, well, was pretty much everything. But like I'd never worked steps before. I'd never done service before. I'd never done sponsorship before. I never went to 180 meetings in 90 days before. I didn't pray every day before. You know, and there were these, there was this married couple, they had like 20 years clean when I came in, and they'd always come to the meetings really regularly. And for me, just seeing the same people show up day after day and week after week was really amazing. And so, like, if you're one of the people that goes to the same meetings week after week, month after month, year after year, thank you for that service. Because that really showed me that this shit works, and that this doesn't have an expiration date. That I don't get better after a month or after I've worked a set of steps and I can go away and not come back. They're still there, still talking the same thing, you know, and they say very similar things, you know, when they share. And I wasn't annoyed by them sharing the same thing. Like, I needed that repetitiveness drilled into my head. But one of the things that both of them would talk about, and it's in our basic text in chapter 5, what can I do? But it talks about asking your higher power for help to stay clean every morning. And they said, say thanks for the gift of recovery before you go to bed. I don't remember how it's phrased in the basic text, but please help and thank you, right? And they got like 20 years clean, and they're doing this. So it's something that they're saying that they do all the time, and they show up and they do these things. I can see them, and they talk about it. Like, okay, I'm going to try some of that stuff, right? They're awesome people. Maybe I should do some of that stuff, and I could be an awesome person too. So, so I pray every morning and ask my higher power to help me stay clean. And I say thank you at night. And sometimes those are the only prayers that I pray in the day. If I go to a meeting, I pray at the meetings. And then a lot of times I have just kind of these please help and thank you prayers throughout the day. If I'm struggling, please help. If some really cool shit happened, even if some uncool shit happened, thank you. I learned something from that. Thanks for saving my ass in this one, And sometimes for me, it's a matter of like, I've forgotten something at work and I'm walking down the hall and I see this thing and it triggers me to remember, shit, I was supposed to call that person back. And I would have lost the job if I didn't call him, if I hadn't called him back. So it's like, there's just even, it's little stuff like that. That I say thank you. Because I know that's not me. I forget everything. So, but for me, saying, please help me stay clean today, and, in the morning, helps me do a number of things every day, no matter what else I do. When I do that, I'm saying, hey, I'm an addict. I'm not going to do well without the help of my higher power. And I'm asking for help, which is really hard for me to do. It's harder for me to do it with you guys face to face than it is even for me to do it with my higher power. It's become a habit. But what that's enabled me to do is to make it not so horribly painful to ask somebody for help. And the other thing I've realized about when I ask people for help, it gives people the opportunity to help. And we come in here and we talk about being of service, carrying the message to the addict who still suffers. When we do that, we're doing service. We're helping some people, and if nobody lets us help, we're gonna give up at some point, So my gift can be, I can ask for help or let somebody help me. If somebody sees I'm struggling and they go, can I help you with this? And I go, oh, no, I got it. I'm good. Right? Maybe I'm the only one that does that. But, I can go, oh, thank you. Yes, that would be awesome. Please help. Some days I'm good at that and some days I'm not. But like that, saying that prayer in the morning is really simple, but really powerful, and has a profound impact on my life and the way that I live my life. And I haven't used. I've gotten some help. So those are some things that I started doing in the beginning. I worked through steps, got involved in service. I'll tell you a funny story. So remember, I'm before I got clean, I'm using and I'm getting clean, and I'm using and I'm getting clean, and I'm going to meetings, right? And at this point, I'm going to NA meetings and I'm going to AA meetings. I live in a not so big town, and so you kind of do both, and I didn't really know what I was doing or where I belonged or what I wanted to be, and so I'm going to both fellowships, and so I had chaired a couple AA meetings, right? And so I do know what day I got clean now. We were just talking about what day of the week we got clean. I said no idea, but so it was a Saturday night, and I was doing housekeeping at a hotel. I had just had this job. I was doing like a couple on the weekends, maybe for a few weeks or a month or two, and was trying to, have some sort of job and income. Well, you clean the rooms, and fuck, I'm gonna look in their shit. So, so I find these big bottles of pills, right? And they're like good pills. They're not like shit that's not gonna fuck me up or give me an ulcer or whatever. They're gonna get me loaded, right? So I take enough that like I can get high, but not that maybe the person would notice right away. I don't really want to get busted. So I have, these pills, and so of course I use them. And this is a Saturday, right? And so I eat some pills, and I go to the meeting. I go to the AA meeting. And they said, we need somebody to chair this meeting tonight. And I said, I will. Right? So I'm pretty loaded. And so I chair this AA meeting. And in the middle of the meeting, some people say, you're high, Amanda, let us finish. And I say, no, I'm not. I'm fine. I'm not high. So I finished chairing. And then some people after confront me some more, say you're high. Finally I say, okay, yeah, I am. And why don't you stay at our house? So, I spent the night at another recovering addict's house, and I got up the next day, and I went to leave, and they said, do you have any more pills? And I said, no. Okay. I had this little pocket full of pills. So it's Sunday, right? So Sunday must have been October 4th, because that was the last day I used. So I ate those pills that day, and that was the last day I used. I didn't have anything dramatic or traumatic happen, but so I chaired this AA meeting high, and so when I did that, and I did actually get clean then, I decided that, I'm not work steps, I don't really know what amends are, but, I'm not going to chair a meeting, and, some meetings don't have a clean time requirement, or it's 30 days or not a whole lot of time, and so sometimes I would get asked, do you want to chair this meeting? And I would say, no, I'm not going to chair a meeting until I have at least 90 days. That's my amends. And because it's pretty freaking disrespectful to chair a meeting loaded, right? Really, it really is. It's a funny story, but it's horrible, because what that does is a newcomer walks in, the chairperson is like the president of NA, right? Before we figure that shit out, that doesn't happen. But when somebody new walks in, the chairperson is like the person in charge. They're the one that is leading the meeting, knows what's going on. That's who you go to, right? They're saying all this stuff. So you walk into a meeting and somebody's nodding off. Do you really think this program works? It's really bad PR, public relations. It is, it just really is. And it's frustrating for people that are clean, because I've been on the other end of that now. So I said I'm not going to chair a meeting until I have 90 days. But what I did is I washed dishes and I cleaned ashtrays and I gave people rides to meeting. I never lost my driver's license, and I didn't drive around without a license, driving people to meetings. I know that happens too. And that's all right, but so I could give people rides, and the thing I loved about washing the dishes and cleaning the ashtrays is people would come give me their coffee cup, and they'd say, "Hey, thanks, Amanda." And I loved that they remembered my name. And I loved that after a while, I remembered some of their names too, And it helped me feel a part of. And that's what service does. Service helps us all feel a part of. And the way I feel about service is that it's a privilege to do service, and it's a privilege of being clean. I learned from chairing a meeting high that it's not great to do service when I'm high. It's not really great for anybody to do service high. And sure, you can be a member, you can have a desire to stop using, but it's really hard to be effective at a whole lot when we're high. Or have it be good PR, or for other people not to get frustrated, right? So I should be clean when I'm doing service for Narcotics Anonymous. And so I enjoy doing service. So that's another great reason not to get loaded, because I don't get to do service anymore if I get high. So I might talk a little bit more about service later. So, the thing with me and my personal recovery and everything I'm saying to you guys is my story, my experience, my strength, my hope, and it's not NA's experience, strength, and hope. I'm an NA member, but and to clarify, I haven't really been to an AA meeting. I don't know. Well, I stopped going for me when I had probably about a year clean. I figured out, I love our literature. I freaking love our literature. It's amazing. It's amazing. It speaks to me. It speaks to me. And I can go into a meeting and I can say, "Hi, I'm Amanda, I'm an addict. And remember, I used all these different drugs." So it'd be really hard to list them all off. Or to go to a program for every drug that I did. I get to be an addict in NA, and it takes care of it all. And I have the disease of addiction. And what I've come to realize from the literature and you guys and Working Steps and a sponsor is that the disease of addiction affects me mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And it's based in self-obsession and self-centeredness. That's a whole lot more than a drug. And I need to do a whole lot more than just being abstinent in order to treat that disease, or I'm not going to get better. And when I came in, I didn't really necessarily want to be an awesome person, or that didn't come till a little bit later, until I figured out that you guys were awesome, and maybe I should, want to strive to, have some, get something you have. But I just really wanted the pain to quit, and like I said, I didn't really know that I could stay clean, but I wanted to not feel the way that I felt. And dope wasn't getting me high enough anymore to not feel my feelings. And that was really why I used, because I didn't like the way I felt, I didn't like the feelings I had. I couldn't stand myself, and so I wanted to change that. Well, when I couldn't get high enough to quit feeling my feelings, the drugs aren't working for me either. I can't use them successfully, but they're not working for me either. They are not my solution anymore. I'm still feeling my feelings. I still want to die. And I'm still really uncomfortable. So the steps help me get to a place where I can be comfortable. And I'm not always comfortable. A lot of times I feel really awkward and insecure and unsure, inadequate. And the really awesome thing is that, like, I can be comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes any sense. And for me, that's some of what self-acceptance and humility is about. Being able to sit with myself with whatever feelings I got going on, whatever way I'm acting out or not acting out on them, and I'm okay, even when I'm not okay. And I'm really grateful for that, and really the only thing that's done that is steps. The steps are my solution. And I didn't work steps. I went through those steps, first couple years I was clean. I thought, I'm good, right? I did those steps, so I'm good. I didn't work steps for probably another 4 or 5 years, and I got really miserable. All that control I like to have, that all came back. Manipulating, dishonesty, all that came back. And I don't know that it ever went away completely, but it all came back. And the thing that was different was that I wasn't getting loaded. So I got to a place where I was kind of miserable. I finished my undergrad degree, and at that point that summer, I was like, I'm gonna do something different. I really had a sponsor in name only at that point, so I got me a sponsor that I could work with, and I started working steps. I went through the step working guide with her, and my life got radically different. I spent several years going through that set of steps. I didn't go through them fast. I think I took 4 or 5 years to go through them all, and I answered every question in that book. And it felt really good when I was done with that last question on the 12th step. I answered the whole book, like, that's great. And I heard this, I don't know if this is still the case, but I had gone to a worldwide workshop in 2007, I think, and they played these videos of addicts from all around the country. I mean, not around the country, all around the world, excuse me. And they had some photos of addicts. They're just like still photos put to music, so you could see, people from all over that are recovering. And I was really confused by that at first, because I thought, aren't we breaking their anonymity, right? Except we're all members and we're not anonymous to each other. And they're being shown at an NA event to NA people only. Were they to be put up on Facebook or YouTube without those people's permission? Yeah, their anonymity's being broken. But to play that for me as another member, that's okay. And I didn't get that. I really what doing another set of steps for me did, and continuing to do service, is I got to understand traditions better. I experienced more people, I experienced more places, I experienced more things, and so I got to question that shit, that seems wrong. But okay, I get that. So so I see these, these pictures, and they're talking about these addicts in Iran that are getting clean, and their fellowship over there is just booming. They have 18,000 meetings a week over there. Yeah, and what the whoever was speaking at that time then said that they really, they're a younger fellowship, and so they don't have as much clean time, and they still celebrate with key tags and clean time, but they really celebrate when somebody has finished 12 steps or finished a step. And I'm saying finish in a really loose term of the word, because you continue to live them and practice them in our lives. But when they finish formally writing or doing whatever the way that they're doing, a step, they celebrate that. And I thought that was really awesome, because we talk about, we're a 12-step fellowship, and we talk about doing steps, but how often do we really talk about doing steps or celebrate that we're doing steps? And I love that we can encourage each other and be proud of each other for our courage to work a step that enables us to get that key tag. Another month, another year. So I always loved that, and I don't really do a whole lot other than with my sponsees, and we still, really awesome when we finish steps. But I went through another set of steps, and I wrote more than I wrote the first time, and now I'm on my third set of steps, and I'm just starting step 9, and I'm working out of it works how and why this time. And I like working steps different ways every time because I get something different out of them. And it's amazing. And so what I've come to realize is the service work that I do is really, really important. We call it selfless service, and the way that I do selfless service for me is that I do it without an expectation of anything in return. I don't expect you to stay clean. I don't expect the subcommittee to have their shit together. Well, sometimes I do. That's my control. And I've learned that lesson too. I expect you to do your shit, you don't do it, and I get a resentment, and then we get all bitchy at each other. And somebody goes away most of the time, and that kind of sucks too. So what I've learned through those things, that where it doesn't work and we get all crabby at each other, and we expect somebody to do something that we never trained them to do that thing, but you should still know how to do it, and you signed up for it, so why don't you fucking do it? But nobody's going to tell you how to do it. And then I'm going to get really mad at you when you come back next month and you haven't done it. So I try not to do that thing anymore. If somebody says, okay, I'm going to do this thing, do you have the resources and the, time that you need to do it? Do you have the skills that you need to do it, or do you need somebody to train you? Somebody to mentor you through this that's worked on this stuff before. And that's kind of how we sponsor people, right? I don't pick a sponsor that hasn't worked steps. My sponsor is there to guide me through the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. How can she do that if she's never worked a step? So I at least need to find a sponsor that's worked a step. And the same holds true for my service that I do. Whether it has an official title or a position or not, whatever I'm doing, if I've not done it before, it's really wise, and it's my responsibility to seek out guidance on how to do this. And as somebody who's done a lot of service and has a lot of experience in a lot of different areas, it's my responsibility to offer mentorship to people that haven't done that thing before. And that's how we get to work together. And that's how we get to avoid the thing of, why didn't you do your shit? Because I don't know about you, but if I don't know how to do something, it seems really overwhelming and I get paralyzed and I don't do it at all. And I'm also a perfectionist, so that really works hand in hand with procrastination. Might not seem like that on surface level, but if I don't think I'm going to do it perfectly, I don't do it. I wait to the last possible minute to do it because I'm afraid to do it. I'm afraid I'm going to fail. I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. And sometimes that translates to I don't do it at all. So if I can be humble enough to say, hey, I'd love to work on this, but I don't know what I'm doing. Can somebody help me? That's what I can do. And then somebody else hopefully can say, hey, yeah, I've done that before. Come with me, we'll go do this together. And that's how that thing works. So I wanted to talk about the 8th concept a little bit. It's this concept I discovered that's pretty awesome. And I hear us talk about, we have 12 concepts and they're for NA service. And you know, we read them, and at my area several years ago, we started this thing where we, every month, we meet for area, and at the beginning of area, we read a concept. And when there's a booklet with the 12 concepts in them, and in the back, there's like 3 or 4 or 5 questions for each concept. So you read the concept, and then there's like a little essay on, you know, a page or 2 or 3 about each concept. And then in the back, there's questions for each one. So at my area, we go through, on the first month, we go through concept 1, we read it, we read the whole thing, and then we discuss it. And we discuss it through those questions. So then if anybody isn't aware of what the concepts are, they show up to area, they start to get a little bit of a, you know, at least a knowledge of what that they exist. And that they can be used for service and are encouraged to be used through service. But the one that has been really kind of mind-blowing for me is concept 8. And it says, our service structure depends on the integrity and effectiveness of our communications. Seems logical, right? But it's really hard to communicate. It's really hard to communicate. And like for a person like me, who's been like a people pleaser for most of my life, and I'm afraid to say something because I might hurt your feelings, you might abandon me. I have these abandonment issues. So I don't want to piss you off too bad that you go away. So I might be thinking, oh my God, whatever you're saying is so messed up. You're crazy. What are you thinking? In my head, but I'm smiling and nodding. I'm lying and I'm manipulating and I'm being dishonest, right? I'm people pleasing because I don't want you to leave me. But in turn, I'm hurting whatever's going on. We're not in a true, you know, relationship, an honest, open relationship with each other. And if really whatever you are saying may be detrimental, like I probably should let you know that, right? We're each other's eyes and ears. I can't like make a decision for you, but I can let you know that I think it's probably messed up. And I don't always have the best judgment, so sometimes I need to check myself and like instant like go, oh, you know, like that's so messed up. Like I can wait a minute. I don't have to do it that split second I hear about it because I don't always have the best, you know, brain working. And so the thing I love about concept 8 is that I can take that concept, and I try to take that concept way beyond my service work. I can take that concept into any kind of relationship that I have, anywhere in my life. And I'm going to read you a couple paragraphs, I think, yeah. And you can just substitute like whoever, whatever situation for service. And this is how I get to think about the communication thing in my life and how it can work in my life and how I've been able to implement this concept in service, which through my service work of not expecting anything in return, I've gotten so much in return. I'm able to have healthier relationships in my life. And if we have a conflict, I don't have to run away. Sometimes it's better if I step away, come back later. But I don't have to run away. I don't have to never come back to a meeting. I don't have to never come back to that committee. I can work through it, you know, and keep moving. And most of the time what I found out is like my relationship with that person that I had that conflict with gets richer and deeper and more connected. Because whatever we work through, we fucking work through it together. So here I'm going to read these things. Open and frank communication is a critical ingredient of effective leadership. To better know the ideas, wishes, needs, and conscience of those they serve, trusted servants must listen carefully to their fellowship. Again, substitute whatever word for whatever relationship you're thinking about. to give the NA groups the information they need to guide and support our services. NA leaders regularly distribute full, unequivocal reports. We do not want our trusted servants to constantly inundate us with every fact and figure possible, though we do expect them to provide us with complete information on all their activities and discussions if we ask for it. In communicating with those they serve, trusted servants demonstrate an open attitude, one that is inclusive, inviting, and clearly influenceable. Such openness and forthrightness may be uncomfortable, but it is essential in maintaining the integrity of our services. Finally, full and frequent communication is essential in the development of group conscience, the spiritual means by which we invite the influence of a loving God in making our collective decisions. To develop group conscience, communications must be honest and direct. Without an informed group conscience, without the full picture seen from all sides, our groups, service boards, and committees cannot develop an informed group conscience. So if I'm lying to you and smiling and nodding my head, I'm not giving you all the information, you know? When we gather together to consider service issues, we openly share ideas and information with one another, frankly speaking our minds and hearts on the matter at hand. We listen closely to one another, considering carefully the information and insights we've heard. We consult our individual consciences on the matter, then we make a decision. A conscience fed on ignorance is an ineffective conscience, incapable of providing reliable guidance. An effective conscience can develop only in an atmosphere of regular, open communication among all parties concerned. And think if we did that in all our service our service would be pretty awesome. And if we did that in all our relationships, that'd be incredible, you know? So, like, for me, that's a really cool thing that I can strive for. And some days I do awesome at it, and some days I fail miserably at it. And the thing I have come to learn is it's okay for me to fail. It's really okay for me to fail. The other thing I've learned is it's okay for me to succeed. I really wanted to sabotage the shit out of this semester. And I tried. But thank God I talked to my sponsor, you know, and I tell her what's going on, I tell her what I'm doing has nothing to do with school at all, but it's affecting the way I'm able to perform at school. And she says, you know, you're just sabotaging yourself, right? These things off here, they're because you don't want to figure out that you can be a great woman, you know, you can do great things. And it's okay to be a success. And I don't really know what success means, and for me, success doesn't mean having $1 million in the bank, or a big-ass house, or a white picket fence. That's not what defines success for me, and I'm not entirely sure what it does, but it's not necessarily related to money. It's at maybe achieving a goal that I've set, and not planning the outcome. But if I'm striving to finish school, right? So I'm going to try to finish school, but I don't know that I'm going to get the job that I want once I finish school. I can't control that outcome. And I don't have that expectation either. So if I don't get that job that I want, I'm not going to be heartbroken and devastated. I'm going to be able to go on with my life and function and know that whatever I do, like my purpose in life is to be an NA member, to stay clean and to carry the message to the addict who still suffers, and to participate in my home group, in our service structure, and as best as I can, you know, to you know, have some unity in doing some of that. And beyond that, everything's gravy, you know. If I can stick around here, the whole world's open. And I can sabotage that all I want, but I'm really glad I have my sponsor and other people to remind me that it's okay to complete these things and do okay, you know, and succeed and be awesome. And so I was really glad that was over spring break, and like, I'm just like, thank you for the fucking pep talk, because, you know, I was kind of spiraling. I'm like, there's no way I can do all this work. I'm fucked, you know, and I did it all, and I didn't sleep a lot, but I did it. So I'm going to catch up on sleep this summer, and I'm going to go back to school for one more year, and hopefully not sabotage that, and probably have little failures along the way, maybe big failures, and that's okay too. You know, I can keep going. And yeah, so I have a beautiful life. Like, whatever's going on, as long as I stay clean, I got a chance to do anything. And if I practice the principles that I've learned from the 12 steps and the traditions and the concepts, my life's going to go a lot better, you know, and I'm going to have a much easier time of going through my day. And so I try to keep that in my mind and try to keep you guys in my heart, my higher power in my heart. And that's all I got tonight. Thank you.